someone that had read the blog recommended Ryan's work to me. And the first book that was recommended was called Perennial Seller. I picked up a copy of that book and I read it on a flight. I remember just getting to the end of it, and at the back it's, it's like also by author, and it lists all his other work. And I ordered everything else that he had written up to that point and just went down the rabbit hole of his work, read his blog, started reading Daily Stoic and the daily email and everything. Through that, I learned about his trajectory of working with Robert Greene and some other writers. And it was in learning about that I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll reach out to Ryan and try to like apprentice under him the way that he did with Robert. So I sent him an email in like 2018, I think, early 2018, and just like, thanks for your work kind of thing. And if there's ever a chance to work for you, like all of your books are sending me down a rabbit hole of reading, and to have that be focused by what you're working on would be awesome.
Can you pull up, I know you have that email pulled up. Can we take a look at it?
Yeah.
How it's structured and
yeah.
And maybe you can comment on what you think you did right or didn't do right. And
yeah, I was going to say that it's not the email I would send today. If I were doing it over, I would have done it differently, but I think the timing was right. Daily Stoic was just starting to get bigger. Ryan's own books were just starting to sort of take off. So I think my timing was right. But if I sent this email today, I don't think it would have got my foot in the door. So I would have done it differently. But
first off, thank you for the work you do. Your books, Daily Stoic, RyanHolly.net, have been a huge influence.
Yeah.
And then second, it's pretty good. I mean, second, I wouldn't call myself a writer, but I love books. So basically the second paragraph, what do? You're telling him.
I just sort of trying to establish some context of who I am, why I'm then getting to I would like to help you with research. So it's like trying to establish a little bit of my background of like my interest in books. I studied English in college. I think I included a quote from a philosophy professor in college. On the first day of class, he said, "The value in this material is not in the novelty, it's in the utility." I say in this email, like, I always liked that quote, but I wasn't exactly like sure what I liked about it. And then it was in reading Ryan's work that that quote came back and was like, oh, that's what he meant. Like, these aren't like new ideas, but they're like practical and you can actually use them. And that sort of like clicked for me in reading Ryan's stuff. So I sort of mentioned that quote in the email and then talk about like his output.
So it's basically like flattering. The second one is kind of like a little bit about yourself and like showing that you kind of think about this stuff a lot, and also showcasing a little bit about you and like how you think about this stuff. Third, it seems like it's like another flattering kind of. And then the last one is
that
like,
third
hey, by the
paragraph
way,
makes me a little uncomfortable when I now read it.
I think it shows personality, right? And I think that probably resonates. Like, this kid's genuine and like.
Yeah, but I used the word flummoxed twice, and that's just not a word I use.
It was maybe to show off like some
I don't know what I was thinking with that, but
that's funny. How would you do it today?
So today, what I would have done is would have delivered something on the front end. I now know the process of Daily Stoic, for instance, of how he writes those emails. He writes them in batches and he tries to build a backlog. So I should have done some of that work to like see how is he actually able to produce as much as he is. And I'm sure still like it would be nice to have a larger buffer than he already has. So what I would have done was like written 20 or so Daily Stoic like emails and just sent them to him and be like, hey, I was just trying to get some reps in as a writer. I love your style, so I wanted to try to mimic it. And I thought maybe there's something here that you could use. Like, by all means, if there's anything you like I don't need any credit or just they're yours.
Yeah.
And if you have any feedback.
Yeah, free work.
Yeah, exactly. So just like doing some free work. And in that, you're also showing like ability, or even like, do I have a taste for pulling quotes and anecdotes? Like, you're able to show that up front.
It's like a two-sided test, right? Like, on one end, you're seeing like, oh, do I actually like this work? And on the other, it's like, can you actually do this work, right? And like to the quality of like the expectations.
Right. Yeah. I have been getting emails that are like, hey, I'd like to do what you did with Ryan. Let me know how I can help. That is like putting an obligation on my plate. If I take you up on that, I have to figure out like, how can this person if I don't know, how can they help me? Versus like show it on the front end how you actually can add value to this person, whether it's like saving them time, saving them money, like whatever it is. But can you show that up front before you just say like, hey, busy person, when you have a second, think about what I can do to help you, you know?
Yeah. Why do you think Ryan said yes to your email? What do you think about it? And
well, so I can show you. He said, that's a great line from your professor. Honored to hear my books have been useful. I may have a research project to do with the other Stoic. I will forward you to someone on my team. So again, I think it was like right place, right time. I don't know if he went and looked, if he like looked me up and saw that I was already writing online. I was like already doing the thing. But I've heard him since talk about how like he likes to see, if someone reaches out to him, he likes to see like, are they already doing the thing? You know, it's like, you don't have to be published in the New York Times, but like, did you start a blog and are you doing the thing just because you like to do it? Like, are you not waiting around for permission? And it's almost more impressive if you're writing into the void and it just shows that like, you just like to do the thing. And that's sort of what I was doing with the blog. Looking back, it didn't feel like that at the time, but like I just liked doing it. No one was really reading it, but I think he might have liked that aspect. Honestly, I'm not exactly sure what he was thinking when he saw this email and why he replied.
Nice. Okay, so he connected you with someone on his team. What happened then?
So he connected me with this guy named Brent, who's still one of his business partners. And Brent at the time like handled all things Daily Stoic related. And the email list, I think at that point was like 50,000 people, and it was pre like Daily Stoic having a YouTube channel or a podcast. Like to get the word out about the newsletter was through the blog at the time. So there's a lot of like SEO articles and profiles of the Stoics and book reviews of the main Stoic texts. So they were starting to increase that output on dailystoic.com just as a way to bring people in to ultimately try to get them on the newsletter. So I was doing some of those articles. One of the first projects was like to read discourses by Epictetus and write up like a book review, like the core lessons from Epictetus, the best quotes, like that kind of thing. That went well. I did that. And then here's another project. And then another early one I remember was Ryan had a long call with Robert Greene. It's like a 2.5 hour conversation. And he sent me he sent me the audio. I was like, hey, can you just transcribe this? So I just transcribed it. It was just like random projects like that as they would pop up. It was not on like any consistent basis. It was just random. I would check my email and like Ryan or Brent was like, hey, any interest in working on this? I would just be like, yep, I'm on it.
And these were like small, like unpaid projects, right?
Yeah, well, they were like paying me like, I don't even remember what it was, but that was like one of Ryan's things. It was like, he didn't want anyone like working for free for him. So he was
got it.
Paying me like per project, but it was just like, that was sort of irrelevant for me. I was like really in it for just wanting to be a part of what he was doing and like wanting to learn from him.
And what was the transition from those small projects to full-time position?
Yeah, so 3 or 4 months into like the random project thing. And at the time I was living in Colorado. In that email, I actually mentioned like that I follow him on Strava, which is like a social exercise app or whatever. And every time I'd pull it up, like Ryan had just posted a run. And at one point I pulled it up as I was like about to go for a run one day, and he had just posted a run from Vail, Colorado, which was like 5 minutes from where I was living at the time. I could see it from where I stood when I was, getting ready to go for a run. So I emailed him, was like, hey, how long are you out here for? I live just down the street. It'd be awesome to meet you in person finally. And he got back to me. He was like, I'm here for, I'm speaking at some conference tomorrow. Like if you come to it, we could find some time before or after to hang out for a little bit. So I went to the conference that next day, and he spoke, and like after we just chatted for 10 or 15 minutes before his car got there and he was going to the airport. And he was like, I was talking to my business partner this morning about wanting to bring on someone full time. Like, do you have any interest? And I was like, yep, sign me up.
Wow.
And
I didn't realize that, because you were a ski instructor at the time, right?
Yes.
While you're doing these like gigs for him.
Yeah, exactly. So I would go ski instruct, and I'd come home and just like work on stuff as it came up.
That's awesome. A lot of times the way you get into these like backstage careers is it's kind of like a side hustle, right? It's a side gig on the side that you're either in school. For me, I was in school, or you have a job, or it's like you're a ski instructor and you're doing this like in your nights and weekends type thing.
Yep.
And it's like just a little bit of work. But that kind of like transit, that's like enough stuff, like enough work that you're doing for them that you can show value, and that like when they're ready to hire a full-time position, like a full-time person, like you're top of mind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like you want to just like be in their vicinity. Not like you don't want to just like blast them with emails every day, but you just like pop up occasionally. And I still do this with writers that I really like not necessarily because I want it to lead to something, but just like I'll send them, if I read something, it's like, oh, this is like exactly what so-and-so writes about. I'm going to send it to them. And just like things like that, where you just like stay in their orbit sort of. And then when something comes up and they're thinking about like, oh, I could use some help on some research. And it's like, well, that kid like sends me cool articles from time to time. Like he's got a pretty good taste for like what I like and what I write about. Like maybe he would be interested. Like I feel like that's how it kind of happens.
I love that. Who do you do that with right now?
I send like Morgan Housel stuff, Cal Newport. I've sent stuff to like Seth Godin and gotten a reply from him, which is what has been cool.
And do you send this like over email or like via Twitter? Or?
Yeah, email. I'll just email it to him.
Email.
And like with like Seth Godin, like I'll sometimes just reply to his daily email. Like if I read it and it reminds me of like something, I'll just be like, here's another quote related to this idea. Just like stuff like that.
Does he check it himself?
Like, he seems to. I've gotten replies from it, and they're always short. Like a lot of these, even like Ryan, like you saw that reply, he was like, "That's a great quote. I'll be in touch." Like they're very. And Seth goes the same way. He's like, "That's perfect," or like, "That's a great line," or something like that.
Yeah, it's funny. You'd be surprised. Like the people like newsletters. I feel like a lot of the OG writers that don't have like social media, they have like their newsletter. The newsletter is their baby, right? And so like when people actually reply, they it's like comments on social media, right? Like they might see it and reply. That's interesting.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, so you get the full-time position. Did you move to in person? Was it still remote? And like, did your assignments change?
It was still remote. It was just, and it was similar work. It was just on a more consistent basis, and I was more working directly with Brent, taking some stuff off his plate. So like I took over the Daily Stoic content calendar, scheduling stuff into ConvertKit, like the email service provider would use. So I was like handling all the emails that went out. I was scheduling them. I was deciding like I would propose a calendar. So like we try to stay like a month ahead on the newsletter, organizing the content that's ready to go. When is stuff running? How is it getting scheduled? Like I took over all of that kind of stuff.
So your main responsibility was managing the Daily Stoic newsletter.
Yeah, essentially.
If you like this short clip, make sure to check out the full interview right here and subscribe to the channel for more behind the scenes interviews with the people working for your favorite entrepreneurs and creators.